Okay, so final video, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to square a whole bunch of different pieces of cable together. So basically we're going to square one of our 6 pair that we did earlier, and then I'm going to do the 25 pair, and then we got a 50 pair sitting over here that we're going to do as well. Now, when you square, you want to have a significant amount of tail. Generally speaking, when you square, you're going to use Alpith cable, simply because it doesn't have a whole lot of grease on it. But in this particular case, we don't have that luxury. So I'm going to give myself about that much slack, because when you do the squaring, pretty much you're going to be in an enclosed space. Okay, so that's about how much you want to have, roughly. Okay, now we've got a nice chunk of cable here. So we'll do what we always do. Give ourselves a little bit for our binding. Now, seeing that we're coming down to the last, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways with some different bonds too that are commonly used, and how those are applied. It's so much easier when you're using a can wrench. Okay, so that's our 25 done. We'll leave it in its jacket until we're ready to use it. Set that aside. Now we'll grab the much bigger 50 pair cable, so much more substantial, and again we're going to grab it right around the same spot. Now sometimes this comes off easily, and then sometimes it just doesn't. So it just depends on how your day goes. Hey. So, whew, that's a workout. Haven't done that in a while. Okay, so same thing, same as before. You take your string, do the whole wrap thing. Go it back a bit. Okay, so up until now we've been using the bigger bullet bonds. These are the smaller ones, which is what I should have used with the 50 pair or the 25 pair cable, but I forgot that I had these. So once your hands are all greasy, these are always the fun things, trying to get everything ripped apart, get settled. So again, same process. Doesn't matter which way you go about it. Get it all back. Get it kind of closed down a little bit. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to clean off your sheath a little bit. A little more stick. And again, same process as before. Okay, so these cables are prepped. So we'll use this one end. So again, same thing that we did before. Like I was showing you before, if you get the Kevlar and snip it at the bottom, you can just work it off just like that, and then it's done. And then, just like what we did before, you take it off, snip off the top sheet, pull that all off. Give them a little bit at the end that didn't want to come off. Okay. Now, I found in my experience that if you try to do the same thing with these, the ones that are on the inside, doesn't always work. Simply because there's a lot more grease on the inside of the cable than there is on the outside. And it just didn't come off quite as nicely. So generally speaking, when I'm doing the inside, I would peel it off like that until I get close to the end. And then you can just take it right off. Now, the other joy of this part is that because we are in a 50 pair cable, now we have 2 binder groups, which is kind of exciting because we finally get to play with some binder ties. Now, I've got 4 binder ties here because I was going to originally grab a 100 pair cable, but I couldn't find any. So there's our 4 binder groups that would have been in a 100 pair cable. But seeing that we're only 50, we only need 2 of them. So then, basically what you do, if you can see where there's the orange Kevlar and then the blue. So right where that orange is, you kind of want to dig your fingers in there and try and pull it apart. So now you know that your binder groups are split properly. Now as soon as you got your binder groups split, then you want to get that zip tie on there right away. That way there's no confusion, there's no mistaking it. It's in place. Okay, so your 2 groups are definitely separated now. Okay. The other thing that can be done is they've also got the 2 binder groups are also separated a little bit. So you can break those up. Just makes it a little easier for you. But at the end of the day, that's this cable is prepped as well. So then all it is just a matter of removing the color markers, and it's just a quick snip and they'll come off. So I'll finish prepping this and I'll get the jig set up for the MS2. And as soon as I got all that ready, then we'll come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we've got the cable prepped. So generally speaking, what you try to do is you want to be able to secure your cable to something so that it doesn't move, so you can keep a consistent length when you're doing your square. Okay, so that's what we've tried to do here loosely, but it's not perfect. Now, in here, you've got your bridge, your square. It comes in 3 pieces. Oops. So you got your actual bridge itself, and then you got your top and you got your bottom. Okay, so this is it's sort of like your jig that goes into your squared. Okay, so it just snaps in place. There's these little pushable tiles that go in there, so we'll just put that one in there. Now, the unfortunate part of this one is that this one's dry. Usually the ones that we'll use in these kind of splices, especially if it's going to be a buried splice, they would be filled. But in this case, this one happens to be happens to be dry. Okay, so everything is fairly simple. All the pieces that you need to use are already all in place, so it's just a matter of following the guidelines. So in this particular case, we will put our first group into it. So when you're doing this, it's all a matter of following the color code that you can see on the top of the square. So everything else is exactly the same. You got to break the pairs apart, get them all in place. So I'll do the first few with you, and then we'll probably go ahead and pause the video. Now, you want to try and have the same tension all the way across. So basically, when you go in, and then you pull it into the spring like that, and it holds it in place. It's not too tight or anything, but just means there's one less thing you got to worry about. And again, it doesn't really matter what order you do them in, because you'll get to all of them eventually. You just want to make sure that you maintain the same degree of tightness on all of them. Otherwise your splice will be a little bit wonky. Now, as you can see, when you get really good at it, this is a much more efficient way of doing things. You can get things done a lot quicker using this particular method. do that. The wrong ones. That's the other nice thing about this, is that if you make a goofy like that, then you just pull them back out and put the one that's supposed to be in there in its place. Now you can kind of get an appreciation for why you would use a dry cable, so to speak, like an Alpeth, because how greasy this all gets, and then you can't pull the wires like you want to. So that there is basically how you do that, and then one final step is you take your comb, and this enables you to basically check to make sure that you got everything the way it's supposed to be. So you see all white, all red, black, yellow, violet, and then you go to the other side, and then you see the usual, you know, blue, orange, green, brown, slate, blue, orange, green, brown, slate, and then you're good. So once you see that everything is where it's supposed to be, then you put your cap on. Okay? So you press your cap in place. Again, making sure that nothing's moved. And then you grab. Hopefully my table will hold all this, because it's a fair amount of metal. So what you do is you trigger it, and then what you do is you grab all your tails that you've got in here and you reef them all out so that they're all cut off, and you release your and then all you do is pull it all out, and it's done. So then what you do is you take your blue binder tie to keep it all nice and pretty, because we always talk about things being pretty. Take your binder tie, and there. Now you've got one section that is finished. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of them, and then we'll show you how you combine them to make a splice. Okay, so now we've got all of our cables done. And what we're going to do is we're going to splice them together. So on the back side, you can see these holes. Okay. So basically what we do is we take this little tool and of course, doesn't want to Now, anyway, another way you can do it by taking your snips. Basically, you pry it off, just like that. And then what you do is you take one of your so we will just do it this way. When you lift off, you got to be very, very careful. That you don't. And you got to hope that these are stackable. And of course, it doesn't look like it.